Antonio Cuevas is chief of a Yucaique in New York City. He is a medicine man with a strong Taino lineage, originally from the island of Puerto Rico. He is best known for his hands-on involvement in helping awaken his own community by uncovering their resilient strengths. He is a guide and practitioner and works with people one-on-one in group settings and sacred medicine circles, locally, nationwide, and throughout the world, and he has one of the most inspiring stories I have ever heard in my life. He will be joined on stage by Cristie Strongman. Cristie is a psychotherapist in private practice in New York City. She is a certified therapist by the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, or MAPS, which none of you have ever heard of. No, I'm kidding. An MDMA-assisted psychotherapy program. She is currently working with MAPS on FDA-approved clinical studies as a co-investigator and co-therapist with MDMA-assisted therapy for PTSD. Please welcome to the stage Antonio Cuevas and Cristie Strongman.
Greetings, everyone.
Peace, family.
My name is Cristie. As Tom said, this is Antonio, Cacique Antonio. Cacique is an Arawakan word for chief. Arawakan was and is the language of the indigenous people of the former Hispaniola, and or what we consider the Caribbean islands. In this case, more specifically, the island of Borinquen, or also known as Puerto Rico. This is going to be more of a conversation / interview, if you will. The former presenters were talking about connection, and I think that this is why we're here, to connect with one another, to remember why we're here, and to meet new friends. So you can consider that this is an introduction to a new friend, Cacique Antonio. So, Antonio, I'm curious if you could tell us a little bit about how you grew up, where you grew up, and then we will find ourselves talking about your current work with plant medicines and about your heart. So tell us a little bit about how you came into this realm.
Cacique Antonio. So I moved from Puerto Rico to New York City when I was 5 years old. In the Puerto Rican diaspora, which most of us experienced because of colonization. My country was the first country to be colonized, and it's still a colony to this day. So I sided a lot with indigenous rights and people fighting for their freedom. I just flew in from Hawaii, spending with indigenous people there that feel their island is being occupied as we speak. So from Puerto Rico to New York City.
From Puerto Rico to New York City. Wonderful. I want to go to Puerto Rico after New York. So what brought you into what we call entheogens, psychedelics, but in this case, if I may, into substance? What brought you into the world of substances?
It was very interesting when we came across the sacred mushroom as a child, as a preteen, because in the barrios, in the ghettos, in the slums of Black, brown, Latinos, they don't do psychedelics. They're scared of psychedelics, right? Most people in our neighborhoods say, I don't want to hallucinate. That's not something I want to do, right? So really as a youngin', I saw a lot of people I grew up with, drug dealers, dope dealers, murderers, grew up in the environment, grew up in the projects, a lot of violence, a lot of drug abuse, heroin, cocaine. So I found it really interesting that these big time willies were scared of the mushroom. And at an early age, I was really intrigued, saying, well, why are these big dogs and these OGs scared of this mushroom, you know? But they weren't scared of it because it was addictive. There was no addictive qualities there, right? No one's running up the street selling their mom's TV for mushrooms. So it was very intriguing, really early on, to see people fear the sacred mushroom.
And as a preteen, that's what you went for.
That's what we did at 10. I say, you know, and it's very interesting because in the projects or in the ghetto, in the hood, whatever you want to call it, they're scared of psychedelics. But every elder in the community has a friend that's an old hippie. And if you're on the neighborhood, on the block, when that hippie friend comes around once a year, that's when you're gonna get your mushrooms and your LSD. And if you weren't on the block that day, you missed out for a whole nother year. So real early on, I mean, I think I was 10 years old doing 10 grams of mushrooms.
10 grams.
10 grams at 10 years old.
Okay, now, you owe to tell them what that was like at 10 years old.
You know, it's very interesting because at that time I didn't realize they were earth sacraments or earth medicines, but I knew even at that age that they offered altered states of consciousness. So I think that was my reverence for the medicine. So I've never had a bad trip. Might have had some difficult ones, but never had a bad trip. I think just having that reverence. And I could tell you, it was fun. It was fun at first.
Did you do it by yourself, or did you have
I
buddies?
got a cousin named Westside. And my aunt would allow us to do anything we want as long as we did it in the house. So even at that age, we would like lock ourselves in the attic, roll up your joints, you know, and knew that you weren't going nowhere for several hours.
So set and setting before that was cool.
We didn't even know what set and setting was. We just knew that we had to do this alone.
Mm-hmm. I didn't have that aunt, I have to say. Make sure you are that aunt, that uncle, right? So 10 years old, that was your introduction to psychedelics.
Yes.
Okay.
10 grams at
Where
10
do we
years
go
old.
from there? So I'm curious, what did it mean to you at that age? That's a very early age.
It meant a lot. Growing up in the projects in New York, my triangle is Newark, New Jersey, Spanish Harlem, Brooklyn, and everything in between. And growing up in the early 90s, mid 90s, post-crack epidemic, a lot of heroin use. It's real easy to, especially in that age, and I think even now, to really fall into drug abuse, end up in jail, or end up dead. So it was really very interesting how the mushroom, it really kept us conscious. And my cousin Westside has the same memory and the same experience as me. Because as we grew up in this environment with a lot of violence, a lot of poverty, a lot of drug abuse, you know, people are raised by their grandparents or aunts because their parents are on drugs or alcohol abuse, and everyone's on food stamps. The mushroom really made you look at yourself once a year when that, see, the thing was that me and my cousin Westside, we would wait for that hippie to come around once a year. We would wait. While everyone in the neighborhood was scared, it was like, usually like July 4th, early spring, something like that. He'll come around. But growing up in the inner city, and during this era, this was happening everywhere. This was happening in Philly, Miami, LA, you know, Houston, the crack epidemic. It's really easy to fall into the street life of whether being a drug dealer, a drug user, or getting caught up living in that life of living in the streets, about being homeless. So the mushroom was really instrumental in keeping me conscious.
Say a little bit more about that, about how did the mushroom keep you conscious and away from that life you just described?
Well, I started working with the mushroom at an early age, but I still lived in that environment, and I had to do what I had to do to survive, just like everyone else around me. And for those that grew up and had to do what you had to do to survive, it might not be things you're proud of, but they're things that made you stronger, and it's the reason why you're here today. no matter how hard the things you went through. And I did just about everything that you could imagine in the streets. I was a hardcore street person. I was very destructive to myself, to my community. So every time you sat with the sacred mushroom and it made you look at yourself, right? Because that's what medicine does in the beginning, right? It makes you look at yourself first, right? Before medicine can upgrade you, give you downloads, show you the secrets of the cosmos, show you the secrets of your spirit, your soul, it wants you to look at yourself.
What did you see?
Oh, those are the worst journeys of your life, right? Oh, stop, all right, I know I'm an asshole, okay, I can't do that. Oh man, I gotta make that right with that person. Oh, why do that? So, medicine, and when you get into medicine, you really gotta be humble, right? Because if not, the medicine will humble you, right? And if you're just stuck doing the work and going back to your old ways, the next time you go into medicine, it's the same thing. It's like, oh man, why do that to this person? Why I say that? So it made you really conscious of your actions and what are you doing to yourself and your community and your family.
So how did you remain humble or make amends or change yourself and your surroundings because of that mirroring, if you will, of the mushroom? I'm curious.
I think every time I sat with that mushroom once a year, it saved my life. I think every time that mushroom beat me up and made me look at myself and stomped on my ego and tossed it out.
Sorry, I didn't mean to giggle when you said the mushroom beat you up. I just had a visual.
I think growing up in the environment where I did with me and my cousin, it made you look at yourself, it made you say, wait, pause. Right? Then you look at some of the OGs in the neighborhood that did 20 years in prison and they came back and they're still doing the same thing. Then you see the guy that's in and out of jail, 2 or 3 years in jail, 2 or 3 years at home, in and out of jail. Then you see the dope dealer turn into a user. Then you hear so-and-so OD'd. Then you hear so-and-so got shot. And the mushroom makes you look at that. And the sacred mushroom really made us realize how sacred life was. Because in the inner city, life is not sacred. It's survival mode, and people are doing what they have to do just to feed their kids and pay their rent. So you can't blame.
And you were around all of that.
My whole life until I had kids at 23 years old is when I realized I could no longer live in that environment. So it was sacred mushroom really just makes you look at your actions, your thoughts, who you with, where you're going in life. It gives you what I call vision while still keeping you very present, right? So it's not like you're worried about the future, but you're just kind of like planning for the future while still being very present.
So far we're talking about how the mushroom changed you, how it came to you. How did you then take this wisdom, this lived experience and this mirroring and being beaten up by the mushroom? How did you bring that to your community, if you will?
The way I brought it to my community was by example. To this day, I've done a lot of work in the New York City tri-state area, Oakland. I do retreats in Peru, Mexico. I just came from Hawaii. But in my immediate community, I've only been able to get about half a dozen people to come to ceremony because they seen the change in me. And they look at me and they say, you're not who you used to be.
Okay, so what was the before and after, if you can tell us a little bit? Create a picture.
I was like Tupac and Biggie.
Okay.
Now I'm like Buddha and Jesus.
Well, those were no-nonsense people.
Yeah, well, medicine is no nonsense too. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So you brought this wisdom to your community by example. You know, you've mentioned now that people saw the change in you. I'm just curious if you can say a little bit about the changes that people wanted to make. What are some of the people in your community that you've known probably all your life that wanted to change? Without any names, what were they like? What were they seeking? What were they in the middle of?
Well, you know, in the inner city, it's all about numbing, right? So people smoke tons of weed, drink tons of alcohol, take a bunch of pills, abuse MDMA, abuse, Oxy, Percocet, prescriptions, Xanax. So in the inner city, it's about numbing. So no one wants to feel.
And can you say a little more about that?
Well, you know, all the drugs, people are going through their struggles, so they want to numb it, right? So it's like most people work Monday through Friday, then Friday and Saturday and Sunday they're numbing with drugs and alcohol. So the biggest difference is with plant medicine is you're feeling. You're not numbing no more, you're actually feeling. So you have to work through your pain, you have to work through your suffering, you have to work through what you're going through, right? And over the years, people would come to me and just look at me and just say, I'm tired. I don't know what it is you're doing. I know you talk about these retreats and ceremony. I don't know what it's about, but I want in. I'm tired of the weekend warrior, getting drunk and high every weekend, just to recover on Sunday, to do it again on Monday, and take the kids back to school. So people get caught up in the loop of the rat race of surviving and get tired of the norm, which is just drugs and alcohol every weekend and partying. And people will come to me and say, I'm tired, I'm done. I don't know what it is. You've done, but I'm ready. So at that time, depending on what medicine I'm working with at the time, it's like, all right, let's go, it's ayahuasca time, Or, depending if I'm working with addicts, because I work with a lot of addicts, I work with a lot of people coming off prescription drugs.
And these are a lot of the time people that you have known all of your life.
People I have known, or people that have referred me to people that I've known, because I do work with a lot of addicts. I do work with a lot of people coming off prescription. And with those people, I work with the Holy Trinity of Medicine, which is Kambo, Toad, and the sacred mushroom. So I've only been able to bring people from my communities by example, and I still go down to the projects with my shamanic beads and my bandanas, and people are like, oh, you serious about that path, And I'm like, yeah, when you come in the ceremony, I got a retreat coming up right now, upstate New York. You coming? And because you can't force nobody to do this type of work. You can't force nobody to heal their heart, heal their mind, heal their body. When people, I know heroin addicts that have been high since 1988. When that person is ready, that person is ready. You can't make nobody do this work. So when I get addicts coming to me, when I get people coming off prescription drugs, it's because they want it. They ready. They want the help. They want to change. They want to move forward. They want something different. And they seen that I've been able to do it. And so it gives them motivation that they can do it.
So you are that olive branch in your community.
I believe we all are. I believe everyone in this room is walking and carrying the medicine. I believe when you're working with these medicines and you're having these powerful, mystical, spiritual experiences, downloads and upgrades and epiphanies, it comes with a lot of responsibility. And you're walking with that experience every day in this realm. And you're invoking it into this realm. So there's a lot of responsibility that comes with working with medicine, especially in the higher dosages.
What are higher dosages for you, since you started at 10?
We're going to leave that topic up to the great sister, Master Teacher Acacia. She'll be coming up. I'll let her talk more about high dosages, but I've worked my way up to the 20-gram dosages back in 2017 when I was in contact with Kalindi, Baba Kalindi, rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Which
rest
is
in
pretty,
power.
Yeah, which is pretty much became the poster boy for high dose work. Me and him was in communication in 2017. Rest in peace, Baba Kalindi.
Yes. Those of you that do not know about Baba Kalindi, please use Google.
I know this Portland. Everybody know who
You
Baba
will be
Kamidi
happy
is,
you
right?
did. Yes. So let's go into how and why you became a cacique, a chief of a Taino village or your village. When did the calling come to you?
The calling to be in service, I think for many of us in the inner city, was when we finally took that trip to Peru and sat with grandmother, ayahuasca. And immediately, I started to realize how working with these entheogens, ceremonial and intentionally with purpose, can be transformational for anybody, regardless of race, color, creed, upbringing, rich, poor. You know, it's something that one of my therapist friends once told me, don't do the medicine if you don't want to change. So after working with the medicine ceremonial is when I realized that, wow, what this can impact the community back at home for people that can't afford a passport, that can't afford a plane ticket. Even if they got a passport, even if they got the plane ticket, can they take 2 weeks off of work? If they could do all of that, who's gonna take care of the baby for 2 weeks? So it became immediately, for me, was about giving access to people that don't have access or can't afford it.
True access, right?
True access.
If one person has not access, there is no true access.
Absolutely. So immediately after working with medicine ceremonial, because before ayahuasca, I was more of a spiritual psychonaut. And once you start working with the medicine ceremonial, things really change. Because with ceremonial, working with more intention, more purpose, and more reverence.
So
right?
purpose, intention, and reverence changed you, let's say, from the spiritual psychonaut onto, what would you call it?
A medicine man.
A medicine man.
Yeah. And I had the divine remembrance of being a cacique through a toad initiation through my bejique at the time. Bejique is basically shaman in the Taino language. And they did a initiation ceremony for me. And that's when I had the divine remembrance of being a cacique. And that's when I truly stepped into all my power and all my leadership role as a community man and a community leader.
Wonderful. What a journey so far, and you have many years to come. What would you say is maybe a summary, if you will, or a takeaway from the lessons of all the entheogens and substances that you've had the honor of taking?
I personally, for myself, I worked with many different medicines, and that's how I've been able to guide my community. Sometimes people don't necessarily need ayahuasca. Some people need maybe MDMA and a good talk therapist. Some people definitely don't need maybe a toad experience. Maybe it's too much for them to integrate because of where they're currently at in life. So I've been able to sit with many different plants, many different elders, all through Central South America, and been blessed to have many blessings and lessons bestowed upon me. One of the biggest messages that come through the plants and the amphibian medicine and the fungi and the cacti would be sovereignty. True sovereignty.
I think I need a moment.
True sovereignty. Yeah. Because it's definitely okay to have our beliefs that are dear to our hearts, that we carry with us, whether it's a religion or a form of spiritual practice. But true sovereignty, not being plagued by any dogma, not giving your power away to any government, religion, institution, and true sovereignty. But even a little bit more important than that is being in the heart. Always being in the heart.
What is being in the heart?
Living from the heart, right? Because when we stay in the head is very logical. The ego's there. This is an ego-driven reality. And the ego's always doubt in spirit. Right? So the ego and the spirit been at war since the beginning of time. But when you're living, so when you're in your head, you're very logical, you're very heady. You're always confused. Oh, do I do this? Do I do that? Oh, I don't know.
As a therapist, I would know nothing about that, but go on.
But when but when you live from the heart, there's a lot less confusion there, because the heart will always guide you. The heart will never lie to you. And when you live from your heart, you're living from spirit. So there's no ego there poking at you and saying, no, that's not it. That's not true, right? Because for those of us that's worked with high-dose medicine knows that the ego come back online very fast, all right? I think when I walked in here the first day, it was like the whole room did 5-MeO DMT. It was like everybody here did 5-MeO. So, for those that work with the toad medicine, even when you come in waking up, the ego's coming right back online. I mean, it's so fast.
So
right?
how do you get back into your heart, would you say?
Well, I think understanding the ego is more important too, because the ego does have a bad rap as well, because the ego is what keeps us alive here. It's necessary to be in this 3D reality. Right? When you're walking through the streets late at night and you feel somebody might be following you, that's actually your ego. When your alarm goes off at 8 in the morning because you got to go to work and pay your rent, that's your ego, right? But if you've always been in survival mode or grew up with a lot of trauma, everything is an ego response, it's a trauma-based response. So spirit is not coming through. Your soul and your spirit is not coming through. So when you go in the heart, that's where the spirit is at. That's where the heart is at. And when you go in your heart space, that's when spirit can come through. And it's less confusion, less clutter, less noise, less uncertainty.
Yes.
Thank you.
So when we start thinking with logic and we find ourselves in the way you described, maybe confused or just tied up with logic, how can we go into our hearts? How do you do it?
Actually, I was blessed to learn directly from Melchizedek. He wrote a book called Living in the Heart, and he shows you how to drop into your heart space, right? And it's kind of crazy the times that we're living in, and we have to learn how to drop into our heart space, right? But I've had people on my retreats tell me, I can't get into my heart. What is that like? So, dropping into your heart. Have anybody here done medicine and felt what universal love is? Right? You ever felt that? You're like, wow, this is love. Oh my God, what is this? Oh my God, this is love. Oh my God, this is love, this is love, this is love, right? That's living from the heart, where everything is love, 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 love. If you're ever in a room where there's a lot of tension, just drop in your heart space and send everybody love in the room. Watch how the vibe changes. You ever at a family meeting, everybody bickering? Drop it to your heart space and sing a little song from your heart and see how everything changes. No one has to even know that you're singing the Ikaro from the heart. No one. But the vibration changes. So, if one thing that's medicine has taught me is sovereignty from the heart space.
Sovereignty.
Every single medicine has been the message.
Let that be our
Cacti, fungi,
message.
plant, amphibian medicine is always about living in the heart, being in the heart.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Cacique Antonio. Thank you for going into the heart. So I would say when we lose our way, we can find each other and ourselves in the heart. Yes. So I wonder if anybody would want to ask Cacique Antonio any questions about himself, his journey, anything he hasn't spoken about, that if he feels like telling you, he'll tell you.
Question right over here. I'll come to you, Sammy.
I don't know.
Excuse my room.
My name is Sammy. I'm Palestinian originally, so I feel a deep connection to indigenous people from all over the world. And I've worked with plant medicines very recently to heal a lot of my own traumas, but a lot of generational trauma has come out of that I didn't even realize was there. So I'm just curious, I kind of felt drawn to helping indigenous people as well as refugees, people who don't have access to the medicines. I know you spoke to that, the accessibility part of it. I'm just wondering if you have any advice as far as getting into this work and helping those communities.
Any advice? Say it at the end. Say that again.
As far as like getting into this work and helping those communities as well, because that's something I feel inspired to do because it's helped me so much as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Get in contact with me when I get off the stage. I've got a couple different projects we're working on in the Amazon, from building in Brazil and in Peru. We're building water treatment centers. We're building caciques, bathrooms, boats. We're buying indigenous people boats. We're getting them Wi-Fi. So there's a lot of different ways that we can give back. And it's very important that we give back to the true gatekeepers of these medicines. It's very important. So yeah, I've got different projects going on and different resources that I can connect you with different people doing some really beautiful work down in Peru and in Brazil.
Hi. Thank you so much for being here and telling your story. It's really inspiring. I'm a New Yorker as well, and I'm a teaching artist, so I work in high schools with a lot of the inner city kids, and I have that sort of divide where I don't bring any of this into the classroom because it's just, I don't feel like I can share that. But I'm hearing your story about your 10-year-old self and that hippie guy who really saved your life and changed your life. And so what I'm wondering is, do you talk to young people, teens? Do you know, are they part of your community? Do you talk to them about medicine? Is there a way to sort of responsibly and safely let them know that what's here, but they're also teens? So that's my question.
Yeah, so two-part answer. One is the City of Light Peru.org, that's our website, and we're building a retreat center down in Calca, Peru, where we're gonna focus on children more, and we're gonna teach everything from sacred geometry to conspiracy theories to plant medicine to shamanism, how money works, and everything in between. But here in the States, it's a lot, things a little bit more different, of course. I've got an 18-year-old daughter. I cannot imagine my 18-year-old daughter doing what I was doing at 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So I think when it comes down to working with teenagers here in Western modern society, is really educating the parents. It's really, 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 really educating the parents, because I've worked with people struggling with a lot of different things, and the sacred mushroom has been instrumental in changing their life. They get educated, they become mushroom growers, and I've seen people start microdosing their 16 or 17-year-old child because they were facing depression, and they didn't want to put them on the prescriptions. And then 6 months later, they're like, Cacique, my daughter comes to me every day after school, hugs me, talks to me, share with me, you know, is more creative, is more open, you know. So the evidence is there that microdosing works when you are disciplined to stick to it, right? Because some people take, oh, I microdose for a week, nothing happened, right? You know, we had to microdose 3, 4, 5 weeks. There's different protocols out there, but you have to be disciplined to work with the microdose. So I've personally seen people microdose their teenage kids instead of giving a prescription, and it works. It works.
Cacique Antonio, gracias por todo.
Thank you.
Primera vez, sí. As a medicine man, I'm wondering if you feel comfortable to share a simple medicine song with us that we might be able to take home with us or take into our heart to practice. Something simple, and if you feel comfortable.
I'm not too much of a singer.
Yeah, I know, right?
I'm not too much of a singer. I'm working with a teacher now that's helping me open up my throat chakra a little bit. So I promise next time I'll have one for you. I promise I will. I'm also learning the guitar right now, so I'm working on mastering my craft. Absolutely.
I had my own quick question real quick. If somebody wanted to follow you, get in touch, could you please tell us a website, Instagram, social media? How do we get in touch with you?
Absolutely. The cityoflightperu.org is one way. My Instagram is cacique_Cuevas. Cacique, CACIQUE_CUEVAS. And CACIQUE_CUEVAS. And then just send me a message and let me know that you were here in Portland so I could let you in.
I'm curious about how you've seen the people that you work with, especially the people who come from the inner city, sort of change after you kind of guide them through these experiences.
Oh, great question. So the beautiful thing about nowadays is that we have something called social media, right? So with social media, you can literally go to someone's profile and look at what they used to post before the retreat and what they post after the retreat. And it's pretty much miraculous. I mean, some people turn into vegans, and now they're walking barefooted through the park. Now they're environmentalists, they become active, they become more conscious, they're posting about meditation, right? And then before that, it was like drinking at the club every weekend, right? With all the toxic friends. And all of a sudden now they're with their tribe, with their family, out in nature. Whole lifestyle changes. Yeah. It's a complete lifestyle change, especially when people come into it just with blind faith. And by blind faith, I mean like they just seen the change in me and they just want a way out. So I found that ceremonies are really more important for people that don't know anything about entheogens, because they just come in with this intention to fix themselves, heal their heart, and they just take the medicine.
Well, you have about 10 minutes left if you'd like to just continue with the conversation. Oh, there we go.
So, thank you for all of that. One thing I wonder if you can expand upon, because it's everywhere: poverty, politics. As we heal, like, I'm pissed. The world is fucked up. Where do you take your healing work to a broader audience of critiquing these systems of power, using this heart-centered empowerment to change what makes ghettos in the first place,
Yeah, good question. For me, since it's about sovereignty and being a First Nation indigenous person, that my country's still colonized to this day, and the powers that be do that on purpose to let everybody know who's in control, right? So my theory has always been, be the president of your family, be the president of your community, be the president and take care of yours. I'm not a politician, I'm not a therapist, I don't have a license, so I'm not bounded by these restrictions, these guidelines. You can't sue me for nothing. So I'm able to work deeper with people. Like if I'm organizing, because I also do I work with the sacred amphibians, but I organize for other medicine people. And as people are coming out their ayahuasca journey, we're processing and integrating it right there, with the lights are still dark. When people are raw and vulnerable and they're open, but I've created this safe container for them to let it all out. So we're processing, integrating while the lights are still out. I mean, sometimes the ceremony circle hasn't even been closed. So I don't have to be politically correct. I respect everybody's beliefs and opinions, but I'm not bounded by any of politics. I really don't care for it. So, I think Obama gave us 1,800, and Trump gave us 1,800. Obama gave us cell phones. Outside of that, what is government doing for anybody here? No. We all got to take care of our own household, and we all got to take care of our family. We all got to take care of our community, and that's where it starts, in your neighborhood. And then each one teach one. one leader creates another leader, and that's how we change from the bottom, because it ain't gonna come from the top.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you have any resources or chapters located specifically in the LA area.
I've got some connections in Oakland, but not necessarily LA. I spent a month last year in Oakland doing some medicine work with some amazing people. So if you know, I think it's a 4 or 5 hour drive from LA, so I could connect you to some community members in Oakland for sure.
Any other questions? Well, there's 5 minutes left of your time, unless I don't want to get fooled again. Does anyone know? Okay, cool. If you want to just close us out.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me, Tom.
Thank you for coming, man.
For being a true ally to marginalized communities. You said some amazing things on my Zoom call, so I knew I had to be here. Thank you for everybody that came out with an open heart and an open mind. Appreciate you. Thank you, Tom.
And Eden.
Anybody in New York City, tri-state area, you could come check me out. I got a retreat in December in Mexico. I'm bringing my ayahuasca maestro to Mexico for a week, if anybody's interested in that. And if anybody got a small community that wants me to come out to serve some medicine, I'm always going where the medicine takes me.
Thank you for your attention, and you have now a new friend.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Antonio Cuevas and Cristie Strongman.